Hey guys, this is Sid Patel, CEO of International Bulk Wine and Spirit Show and also Beverage Trade Network. Thanks for coming here. I really wanted to do a quick shout out on why this year's IBWSS show is going to be the biggest show. So this year we have some powerful speakers here. If you're really trying to level up your game, really grow your business, this is the show which you have to really attend. The subject and the theme of the conference is planned around 4 pillars. We're going really deep into the business of bulk wine, bulk spirits, and private. So if you have anything to do with bulk wine, bulk spirits, and private label, buying or selling, or even getting into it, or even starting, a private label offering in your winery, this is really the show which you want to attend. More importantly, what's going to happen this year is, there are lots of movements happening around sustainability, around private label, around small batch. So everything is going to come and play here, So we're going to really have deep discussions around what other companies are doing, some big companies, how they are practicing this, how they've grown, and how new buying is happening around this national chains. Like, what is Target buying, what is their sustainability policy, what is Walmart doing, right? So this is where we really talk business of the business. So please join me at International Bulk Wine and Spirit Show on July 25th and 26th, and I look forward to seeing you all there. Hey folks, I have Jason here with me. He's going to be speaking at International Bulk Wine and Spirit Show on July 25th, 26th in San Francisco. And this is a talk which I'm, a personal fan of, because this is really the core of any business, building your sales machine, building your sales activities, conversions, business development. And I think you've nailed it. You've built brands like Yellowtail, Josh Cellars, right? So you guys really know it's just not happen. It doesn't happen by magic. I truly believe that it happens one door at a time, right? So let's go right there, Jason. My question to you is, how do you build a sales process if you were a small to medium-sized winery or a brewery or a distillery?
That's a great question, Sid. When we look at any new startup, whether you're big or small, you really have 3 key levers that you want to pull. The first one is identifying your true brand capabilities. So when you think about your brand, how am I going to craft my tech sheets, my sell sheets? How am I going to make sure that I can clearly communicate the selling story or the brand story of the item in question? What are the individual points of distinction for the specific commodity? Whether we're talking about wine or spirits or beer, what are the points of distinction? What makes your product stand out in a sea of luxury items that are out there? And then finally, features and benefits. What are the physical characteristics of your items, and what are the benefits to the consumers as well as the customers who are going to be placing their items on the shelf? So features are easy. I think that traditionally in our industry, we are very good at showcasing features or the physical characteristics of our items. Where we sometimes get lost is linking those features to what is the benefit for the retailer. I know that we've talked previously about the main benefit, of course, being profit. That is the reason why they're in business. So by them listing your products on their shelves, by those distributors adding those products to their portfolios, what kind of profit are they going to see on a quarterly or on a yearly basis? How good are we at telling that profit story? So that's brand capabilities. The second lever that we pull for a sales process for a distillery or a winery is around sales capabilities. And that's training your specific team, the 3, 4, 10, 12, 15, however many you can afford as you're gearing up operations, but training your specific teams. How do they actually go to market and how do they sell? How do they incorporate a persuasive selling process in their sales presentations? How do they incorporate business math into their skill sets? Do they truly understand margin versus markup, or setting a shelf price based off of a target margin, or being able to utilize certain objections and overcome those objections when they see them arise at the distributor level or the customer level? And then finally, their closing techniques. Right? Whether we're interacting with a distributor, closing them on a negotiation based on programming and parameters that they've agreed to, or even with the distributor, do they have a solid understanding of negotiation skills and how to create a settlement range of what is it that they want to achieve and what are they willing to give in order to get what it is that they want to achieve? So that's the second piece, sales capabilities. The third piece is leadership capabilities. And leadership capabilities are for anybody on your team, your distillery, your winery team that has a direct report. So depending on the size of your organization and how large that organization is, leadership capabilities are a key element that we should always consider. One, are we equipping those managers of people with a solid understanding of how to deliver coaching and feedback to their direct reports? Additionally, are we giving them the skills to be able to, when tasked when delivering in public, being able to have solid presentation skills? And then finally, do they understand the basic skills of managing a team? Do they know how to analyze business performance? Do they know how to effectively run a budget? Do they have the ability to read a P&L statement and to be able to course correct as needed, whether we look at Q1 to Q4? So really, it's those three elements. It's brand capabilities, sales capabilities, and leadership capabilities. That's how you start that sales process.
Let's go on some, tactical and some logistical parts of this, right? So if you hired a person, his or her sole job was to open state distribution. When I used to sell my wine, my targets were personally, just for my own brand, it was, 40 samples a month, 200 prospects, converting to 40 samples, converting to, 10 yeses, converting to 2 purchase orders, for example, right? Like, and registration of a start. What's the numbers going on? And I understand that it depends on if it's a $50 Napa versus a $7 value wine, right? So let's pick a $10 a good product. So forget about, like, the product is good for sure. Now, it's just about what would you tell your sales rep that, hey, you got to get 40 yeses and 20 samples every month? Like, what's the benchmark?
I can tell you, if we're talking about a $10 wine item that we are introducing, and let's say you have 1 or 2 people that are overseeing large swaths of geography, it must become incredibly targeted, just based on the number of accounts, the amount of geography that individual sales rep is covering. So you've always heard of the Pareto's law of the vital few, right? So the 80-20 rule. Oh, you've never heard of Pareto?
Yeah, I got 80-20, I know, yeah.
Yeah, it's the 80-20 rule, right? So 20% of the customers within a state generate 80% of the revenue.
Yeah.
So that being the case, how are we getting our salespeople in front of those buyers for the 20% of accounts that generate 80% of the results? And so accounts aren't always equal. And this is a big challenge that a lot of smaller...
Jason, I'm touching base on the opening state distributors, right? So when you're knocking importers and distributors, not retail.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So over there, because there are just few, right? There's anyway 400 left now. So how put it this way, that if someone closes 1 state a month and brings a new distributor on board 1 a month, is that good? Or what's a good, what's a bad, going on there?
That depends the state you're targeting. So if you're talking about New York, if you're talking about California, if you're talking about Illinois, you're talking about Florida, these are massive markets that generate a massive amount of revenue over the course of the year. And I will tell you that based on your supply structure, you may not want to go after those states as you start to gear up. And the reason why is because the worst thing you can do is actually launch your product at the distributor level and run out of stock halfway throughout the year. So having a strategic approach to your expansion and being able to break the country into regions and then going after the predominant distributor that are in those specific regions, that's going to be your best bet. So whether you're talking about Southern Glazers, you're talking about Breakthrough, you're talking about RNDC, right? You're talking about Glazers as that now part of that joint venture. Looking at the individual region of the country that it makes sense logistically to launch in, and then being able to attack it either on a statewide test basis or on a regional basis where you can gain distribution, that's key. But you need to have your financials locked down before you go into that meeting. They'll give you the meeting, but when you come in, it can't be simply as, here's my price support and here's my non-price support. And then that's it, leaving the rest up to them. What Breakthrough, what Southern Glazers, what they're looking for, these larger distributors that operate in multiple states in a region, they're looking for a comprehensive plan where you're going to be able to showcase how you're going to support not only the logistics of making sure that they have product to sell, but you're also going to support, for instance, year-long programming where a certain amount of money for every case that is sold goes back into support for the brand. Now, when you think about Southern Glazers or Breakthrough, they're going to meet you halfway. So traditionally, if you're talking about 50 cents per case or $1 per case or $5 a case for support to fund things like samples, incentives, distribution-based incentives, volume-based incentives, they'll usually meet you halfway. So they'll come to the table with the same level of support. And then from there, you can take a look at how you want to program that brand and align on the goals of what you can actually do over the course of that year. So look at your competitive brands in the market. What are the brands that you're going to be competing against? Utilize Nielsen and IRI data to get a feel for velocity of sales. And then from there, you can start to have that opening conversation with Southern Glazers, Breakthrough, or a myriad of other smaller distributors, depending on the state that you choose in the corner of the country. But it really is about coming loaded for bear with a very solid understanding of your logistics. What can you actually supply? How much are you willing to fund the support of that programming throughout the coming year? And what are you asking them to support based on the alignment of the goals that you're bringing to the table?
Let's give some examples out there, right? Like when you're sending a cold email to a prospect for a distribution, right? Give us some tips on the subject title and what a body should include in the first email, like first cold email.
Just reaching out to a random person at a distributor.
Yeah. Let's say you launch a wine brand tomorrow,
Sure.
right? Your own brand, and you have to pitch a Connecticut distributor or a Texas distributor. How would your email look like? And maybe I'll share my email.
When you're delivering that kind of an introductory email, it's important to establish a level of trust first and foremost. And so being able to reference the brand story, being able to offer some history or backstory to your company or to the brand that's in question is going to be key. I believe that a detailed subject line is always going to be your best friend. So if you actually put in the subject line response requested, and then information regarding your brand or introducing yourself, there should always be an elevator introduction. Who are you? Why is it important that they listen to you? Why is it important that they partner with you or to be able to connect with you for future reference? I will tell you that an email is not always the best bet for that. Many times you take a look at larger organizations, larger distributors, Southern Glazers, Breakthrough, RNDC, they have very high level email walls and spam filters. There's no for sure rating that your email is actually going to get through and make it to the individual that you're trying to send it to. What's better is to use opportunities like WSWA, industry, different industry awards or industry situations where you might be coming into contact with that person, local charity events or regional charity events where you know that those distributors are going to be there and in person. Those are great opportunities to at least have a meet and greet, make an introduction. Once you have an actual physical conversation, either live or on the phone, the ability for them to respond via email is going to go up significantly. If you're just trying to shotgun emails out and hoping somebody opens it, it's going to be very, very tough. You're better off trying to connect with somebody through a regional event, an industry event, or trying to connect with them live on the phone and then asking, hey, can I provide some additional information about my brand and my opportunity through your email? And then from there, you can move forward in a positive direction.
What are the 3 or 4 things that really help you in closing a state distributor? Now, one example is you just literally got a chain to buy that, right? Like a regional chain in that region wants your product and now you're going in that region. Like, are there 3 or 4 things as a supplier, if you can afford to go above them and then sort of get them?
Not exactly. I will tell you that to your point, yes, if you have pre-sold a regional chain, if you have a strategic accounts department and you've started to engage with certain off-premise key chain accounts and you have pre-sold distributions, that's going to be very attractive. Very attractive for at least a trial approach. Bringing in your product on a trial basis, maybe ordering a couple of pallets just to see how things go over the next quarter. If you don't have a strategic accounts department, or if you don't have a national accounts on-premise department, and it is literally 2 or 3 people that are scouring the country trying to move the business forward, it's going to be a little bit harder. And you may have to actually overinvest on every case that is sold through that distributor on the front end to be able to give them a few extra points of profit to encourage them to come into the table. So if you're talking 15, 20 points, which would be the standard amount of profit or margin that a distributor would make on an item, if you have the ability to put in place structures that allow them to be a little bit more profit heavy at the beginning of the relationship, that's something that will catch their eyes. At the end of the day, each of those distributorships are being incentivized. Each one of those brand managers are being incentivized based on profitability. So if you have the ability to bring an item to the table that's going to have higher levels of velocity and earn them more profit than their average rate per case, that's something that's going to help close the door. If you don't necessarily have the ability to do that, it's going to be all about selling on the brand story and the merits and finding how your product fills an open niche or a need that that distributor doesn't currently have. So let's say your $10 item is organically produced or sustainably produced wine venture, and you find that that section of that distributor's book is lacking in that. Talk about how this line fills a need that their customers are actually looking for. That's going to be very, very attractive when it comes to innovation and new item development for these portfolios inside the distributor. If you can fill a need that the distributor has, if you can fill a niche that they don't currently have something of offering, your chances of getting at least the trial close of saying, let's look at this and let's start a limited relationship with 1 or 2 SKUs to get us started, that's going to go up significantly if you're filling the need.
Give us some pointers on how to be a good, likable supplier by the owner, let's say.
This is where communication is key. If you have a limited sales force selling your brands inside of respective states, it's making sure that we over communicate. What are the good works that you are doing in the market? And let's make sure that we're letting the distributor know of all of the touch points that you're having. If you're out there working the market, you're tasting your product with customers, you're selling those accounts in, and then keeping the distributor in the loop of, hey, here are the accounts that I've seen over the last 30 days. Here are the placements that I've made. And showing them that you're not just going to assign them goals and sit back and wait for them to try to sell your products. But if you're active in the market, you're doing wine dinners, you're doing charity events, you're actively reaching out to their distributor salespeople and providing them opportunities to make more money because you're placing those products on wine programs, wine lists, they're going to see you as a preferred supplier partner, someone who is active and highly, highly communicative. I think the other aspect of that is from the financial side, that if you are coming to them with solutions to move your brands forward, they're going to look at you in those mid-month meetings and those try-review meetings as someone who is an engaged business partner, not someone who merely is contracting with them to sell their brands.
I like it.
So being able to say, listen, here's an idea for a distribution-based incentive. Here's an idea for a volume-based incentive. Being able to show them that you're bringing financial aspects to the table to support that growth. That's something that they're looking for. They're looking for suppliers that can be partners. It doesn't have to be 100 different SKUs. Even if you only have 1 SKU or 2, you have the ability to over communicate and invest in the brand and specifically showcase your time in the market. They're going to want to work with you.
True. I think a lot of people listening to this, especially the overseas wineries, may get scared. Like, where is the money? How can I support? How can I do all this? Like, my firm personal belief is just add the markup, because if you feed the retailer and the distributor more and more, it's okay, because this whole thing works on programming, actually, right?
Yes.
What's your, like, literally let the consumer pay $2 more, but let everyone in the chain make so much money.
That's exactly right. If you're an international supplier and you're listening to this and you're saying, boy, I'm trying to funnel every bit of support I can into the price. Well, guess what? Now, when it comes time to fund distribution incentives and volume incentives, there's no money left in the bank.
Sure.
There's no money left. It's one pile of money. So whether we talk about samples, if we're talking about a liquor brand and we're talking about rail mats, if we're talking off-premise production, we're talking about case cards, regular flow, display enhancers. These are all things that cost money, and it's one pile of money, right? So it's better to charge a little bit more for your item and invest on the back end with the distributor. To the tune of $5, $6, $10 per case to drive programming that is going to ultimately deliver the case goals that you want over the entire course of the year. So don't try to funnel everything just into price support, because what you're doing
is like if we were doing a meeting and you were a distributor. If I told you, hey, Jason, this is $4 a bottle, 48 a case, versus pure. That's it. Lowest price. I'm giving my best deal. Versus this is 56 a case, and I'll come 2 times every month and close 10 accounts for you, right? So give us a or B. What is better?
B, because obviously
right?
now you have an extra $8 per case.
Correct.
So now
so
you can
distributor
say,
prefers you come and then give you
yes,
the lowest and never see again, right? I mean,
that's
help them
exactly
sell
right.
through. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, because now you have $8 per case. You can say, listen, here's my plan for our program. It's $56 a case. What you're thinking is actually 48. That's your bottom dollar, right? It's $56 per case. That's $8 per case. So you say $56 per case. That is the price, right? With that, I'm going to invest $8 per case into programming. So if you have 1,000 cases you're committing to over the course of the year, I'm investing $8,000 in supporting that programming over the course of the year. If they are a union house, there is money that has to go towards being in their comp pool. As we've got many markets across the country that if you're not listed in the comp pool for those union sales forces, they're not chasing your brands over the course of that month. They're chasing Gallo, KJ, Constellation, Treasury, Deutsch, right? So there has to be money to fund things like sample bottles, things like tastings to the tune of $250 to $350 for a 3-hour tasting, being able to fund distribution incentives, whether it's $20, $25 for a 3-bottle distribution on spirits or for a 1-case minimum distribution for wine, display incentives. You got to make sure that you're out there in September to be able to activate in October, November, and December. So that $8 a case goes a long way, because now you're saying, I'm asking you to match my investment. I'm willing to invest $8. Will you invest $8 per case? So now you've got my $8,000 based on 1,000 cases you're going to sell over the course of the year, and your $8,000. So we've got $16,000 in the budget. We're going to fund this with non-price attributes. This is where we talk about sample bottles. This is where we talk about tastings, display enhancers, case cards, flow, custom point of sale. All of those bill back opportunities come out of that bank. But you can't do that.
And I think those are the things that are needed, and that will be 100% needed to move the product. Otherwise, it's going to collect dust.
You don't want them just to sell it and put it on the shelf.
True.
So you can't fund only a distribution incentive, because not all distributions are equal. I think
US retail is still so much money incentivized driven, especially you've seen the East Coast, New Jersey and RIPS and all that stuff, right? Like it's literally the language retailers speak. Like, okay, am I making this much? And extra is extra versus whatever. So I've seen myself, like, they don't care to remove Budweiser if Miller's giving them a deal. They don't care to remove Yellowtail if XYZ is giving them a deal. It's just the deal of today. So if I always think that if Yellowtail every time have to fight even for that 25-case display every time, who are the small brands, Like they should understand that how serious this money business is, that retailers need to make money.
They do. I mean, that's the whole reason why they're in business. So we have to get very good at telling the profit story, not only at the distributor level, but at the retailer level as well, because that will overcome the friendships. That will overcome the best friends that are also their salesperson for the rival distributorship. You want the best display locations. You want the most advantageous locations inside that account. It's all about profit. What do you bring to the table? How much are they going to make with your brand versus brand X, Y, or Z?